This week's podcast is sponsored by MPB. Trade in and upgrade your setup for the perfect shoot every time, or free up funds for the gear you no longer need. MPB is the fast, easy and secure way to buy and sell camera equipment. MPB pays for insured collection of your kit and delivers free when you trade in, and has a free 6-month warranty on all purchases. Visit mpb.com to find out more. Hello and welcome to the AVForums podcast for Monday the 25th of March, and joining me on this edition, Steve Withers.
These high-rise gigs give me the creeps.
Mark Botwright.
Fire.
Ed Selly.
I would have waited.
And Kaz Harlow.
Look at him! That's my brother, goddammit!
So, hello, welcome back to the podcast. It's the end of March. We're 3 months into this year already, and I feel like I've achieved nothing. Don't know about anybody else, but...
No, I agree, you have achieved nothing.
Thank you. So where the hell have you been hiding, Mark?
Just normal places, pub quizzing and stuff like that. But I'm achieving things by having a spring clear out right now. Ooh. As far as I'm concerned, spring's on its way. Get rid of anything not worn in winter, and particularly I'm finding lots of little kind of gadgets from drawers that were intended to revolutionise my life, but I never bothered setting up.
Okay.
That's quite cool. Any bike news? Are they still like hanging around in bits, or you got them in one piece, or what?
I've got some tyres in the bath now.
Cool. Good place for them.
Yep, and I've now only got 2 bikes in my bedroom, so that's all right.
Good. Sounds like real progress is being made.
Bicycles, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That sounds reasonable enough.
Well, where else would you keep them, really?
As opposed to women of loose morals.
Christ, there's a hell of a delay on your line. That joke was ages ago.
I know. I would have been a bit quicker, but I had the microphone away from my face, so. And on mute.
Gosh, because it's not like we've ever done that. We haven't done many of these before, is it? You can, all of it new.
You can edit the delay, though, Phil.
You could, but he probably won't.
No, he won't.
The golden rule is, if it makes Phil look stupid, it gets edited.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
If it makes us look like we've got a serious brain injury, it just stays there.
Yeah, of course it does. I get final edit. So there you go. Anything else, Mark, that you've been up to? Because it's been a while. How long has it been?
You know what? Strange as it may seem, I wasn't counting the minutes.
Are you doing any courses at the moment?
I'm still doing the Krav Maga.
Oh, right. Blind, you must be a one-man death machine by now.
There's a lot of emphasis on groin strikes. I hadn't quite realised it. It's kind of getting to the point now where you just kind of think, I don't want to call the Israeli military perverts, but, it does seem a little bit genital-oriented.
And there's the catchphrase for this week's podcast.
Yeah. Right,
so Kaz is here as well. Kaz hasn't been around for a few weeks. So what you been doing, Kaz?
One child's 6-year-old birthday party. I mean, it's a whole thing. It's like 9 days of celebrating. It's like her 21st. Yeah, it's ridiculous. She's had a family party. She had the party that was on her actual birthday, and then she had a party at school. And now she's had her party with her friends from school in a big hall.
And did she get presents as well? Because my parents, they said you're either allowed party and presents from other people, or, presents from parents. And that dissuaded me from ever having a birthday party.
That's beautiful. I like that.
She gets presents literally almost every day. She gets presents wherever she goes. So she has a present from all of her friends, and so she invited 9 other people to come. 9 presents. She had a present from some of the parents of some of the friends as well, because they know friends are family. She's had presents for coming shopping with me yesterday, because it's her birthday and she didn't have to go shopping with me. Shopping for stuff for her. She's had she's been spoilt rotten.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it in the background as well. She's been on the sugar.
Yeah, this is the point at which they have to go to sleep after a week of celebrating, and it's I don't want to do anything. I don't want to go to bed. I can stay up till midnight and still go to school tomorrow. I mean, what are you talking about? So
well, they're your kids, Kaz, and you don't seem to sleep either. You seem to be work. So maybe it's rubbing off on the kids.
Yeah, maybe, but it's the only time I get to do anything is when they've gone down and stay up really late. And what I don't understand is why they won't lie in the morning.
Because they're small children, Kaz. Did you used to lie in when you were 6?
I've been training them for years by smothering them in the morning, and they do not go back to sleep, no matter how much I try.
Have you tried blackout curtains?
Yes, I've got double blackout curtains. One. You know what they do?
They're in the cellar.
They open the curtains and they go, "It's not night." They actually open them wide and they go, "It's not night. It's not night out there. Look." It's like they're not.
Only thing for it is to brick up the window. Go nuclear.
I was thinking more like kind of stage set dressing. Have a huge kind of plywood thing that you can paint with a moon on it or something, and that you can roll in front of their window.
Seems elaborate, seriously.
Well, yeah, but don't complain to us that you haven't exhausted all possibilities if you haven't gone for the plywood.
If I haven't done up the cupboard under the stairs with a beautiful moonlit
Wasn't there an episode of Jonathan Creek where a bloke confused someone into thinking day was night and night was day?
Sounds
it was
right.
gloriously elaborate, like all episodes of Jonathan Creek. But it's ringing a bell. Maybe you ought to look at that. It's on Netflix. There are a few things that really I can't stand watching, and the two big ones that come to mind are that Miss Marple. It's not even Miss Marple, is it? It's Jessica Fletcher. What's it? Murder, She Wrote. Oh, Murder, She Wrote. She's just a walking menace. And she's so condescending. Oh, I just want to strangle her. I'm sorry. I just want the murder to get to her. And Jonathan Creek. I don't know why. Jonathan Creek, I can't stand him. Well, blimey. This podcast is...
Those two need to go into the same room together, and it needs to be a room out of Saw. And I'll watch that film till the end.
God, this got dark quickly, didn't it?
Just a tad.
Well, I'm very tolerant of a lot of things, but Jonathan Creek...
Apparently not one of them. Is there a technical term for fear of duffel coats? Is that possibly what's going on here?
I don't know what it is about them. I've got all the time in the world for Columbo. But no, Jessica
There's your quote.
Oh,
just one more thing.
Right. I wanted this to be nice and easy, just a nice easy edit. Right, Ed, what you been doing?
It's been nice and busy, bit of work. That's, do you know what? That's the summation of my existence at the moment. It's been quite quiet. I made the mistake of going to a big soft play centre in Northampton yesterday, which was quite busy and quite loud, and I didn't even have any noise cancelling headphones with me, which was a shame, because it would have been a stern test. Otherwise, I've done a bit of spring cleaning as well. Basically, I've been this granny annex cum shed, which I've been living in for a period of time. If one is not attentive, it tends to start sporing black mould in places, and I think, well, that's going into my lungs, which doesn't really appeal. So I did another good pass against the black mould yesterday afternoon, and I'm sure that will keep its place mould free for at least another 36 hours, possibly longer.
So how long is this prison cell going to be lived in?
I don't know. I've stopped sort of hazarding a guess as to that. Sooner or later, I will escape, either in a box or into another house. So we will work out what's going to happen there. Otherwise, I lost my train of thought there slightly. Yeah, I mean, just keeping that sorted. I've been reviewing things, which is all good. Listening to a lot of music. And it was great this afternoon. I wrote 2 reviews on The Bounce, hoovered, did some laundry, and I had enough time to read a good 100 pages of a book, which was quite satisfying. I don't get to do that very often. And also, I don't know if anyone else has done it, I was able to wash bedding, and it went out on the line and it dried in a couple of hours, which is a surefire sign of spring from where I'm sitting, which is always very satisfying as well. It probably wasn't satisfying for me 10 years ago, but I'm nearing 40 now, so things like that please me greatly.
Smashing.
It was nice and sunny today.
It was nice and sunny, very windy.
Was, yeah. Yeah.
First day I got out my sunglasses, my new sunglasses, and I sat on them. So Take that as an omen.
But did you get to try the hat, though?
Oh, no, I'm not wearing that one just yet.
All right, okay. Who have we got left? It's so many people here. Withers will be boring. Withers?
Yeah, no, I haven't done anything. I was supposed to go to Wembley on Friday to see England play, but I was sick, so that's it.
That's it. Okay.
That is it.
I'm sorry you missed out on Wembley on Friday night.
Well, 5-0 win as well. I was gutted.
Yeah, I bet you.
Nice.
Okay, so competition time. Who's my victim? Oh, I've got lots to choose from this week. Let's have Mark. We haven't had Mark around for a while.
Okay, you can win a copy of Wheels on Meals on Blu-ray, and you've got until the 29th of March for that. You've also got a copy of 88 Films Cannibal Bundle on Blu-ray, and that one closes on 31st of March. We've also got copies of Criterion's March titles on Blu-ray. I'm assuming that's a selection, is it?
Three of the discs released in March by Criterion. Well, the 3 discs released in March by Criterion. So, right. Death in Venice and
I'm Ron Burgundy.
I love Lamp. And To Sleep with Anger, and another one. There's another one.
It'll be a good one, though.
No, it won't. But I mean, you got those two. Ugetsu. There you go.
Bless you.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right. Anyway, we've got all of Criterion's March titles on Blu-ray, and you've got until 8th of April for that one. And finally, we've got a copy of Pet Sematary on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray, and you've got until 2nd of April for that one. All competitions are open to eligible AVForums members resident in the UK.
Okay, and any previous competition winners?
Scroll down. Yep, Alan X won Overlord on Blu-ray, and Peanuts 20 won Bohemian Rhapsody on 4K Blu-ray.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. Contender for Disc of the Month, that one. Right, so we'll be back in a sec with some hardware news. Okay, so hardware news, and it's audio this week. No video whatsoever. We've all been looking at audio gear. So let's go to Steve first. Steve, you've been looking at a set of B&W 600 series speakers. You looked at the 700s not that long ago. So is it a significant step down to the 600? Because you used to be a 600 owner, didn't you?
It's not as significant a step as you might think, because they use the same drivers, the Continuum base mid-range driver. That is the big thing about the new lineup, basically, replacing the Kevlars that everyone basically has become synonymous with B&W over the last decades, in fact. Those very familiar yellow Kevlar drivers are gone, replaced with kind of a dark silver Continuum driver. What exactly it's made of, I don't know. It's a closely guarded secret, but it definitely works. And it also gives it a much more neutral sound than I would associate with B&W in the past. So 700s obviously trickled down a lot of the tech that was in the 800 flagship series, and some of it is trickled down again into the 600, primarily the Continuum driver. I've always liked 600 speakers. I think they're a really well-made, well-designed, competitively priced speaker.
And they've been around for well over 20 years. Yeah. Yeah. I had the original 602s in my system, and that was way back 92, 93 I had them. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked them. I've always thought they're a good speaker, and I think the new 600s with the Continuum driver are an even better speaker. I think much like the 700, what you end up with is a more neutral sounding speaker, but there's still a little bit of fun in there. There's still a little bit of the feel of what you like about BMW. But I do think it's a more neutral sounding and more detailed and precise speaker than perhaps we would associate with them in the past. And but remains a nicely made speaker. It's not design-wise. It looks like a 600 series. It's pretty basic. You got the driver and the tweeter, magnetic fabric grills, a range of finishes, black or there's 2 finishes actually. There's a matte black and a satin white, and they're well made. I've always been impressed by the build quality on B&Ws. Even this is I guess what you would call their entry level range, and even then it's still a really well made speaker. They've got the dual binding posts at the back if you like that kind of thing. I was reviewing a system comprising of 2 606 stand mounts at the front and then 607 stand mounts for the surrounds, and then the HTM6 center speaker, and also an ASW10 subwoofer. Now, I think if I was actually building a system from 600 myself, I would probably go with the 603 floor stander instead at the front, and use the 606s for the surrounds. I think that does up the price quite a bit, because the 603 floor standards are 1,249 quid, whereas the 606 is £549 a pair, so it's more than double the price. But I do think that then you have a system that you can double it up for using for movies and for music, and the floor standards do sound really good. Having said that, the 606s are a cracking stand mount speaker. They sound really good as well. They've got quite a bit of bass, considering that they are stand mounts. They're obviously a bit bigger than the 607s.
So when you were using them in the system, what were you crossing them over at?
80 hertz.
You're crossing still at 80?
Yeah.
All right.
You could go down a bit lower, but I just 80 is fine. I mean, they go down to 52 hertz. So you could maybe cross them over at 60 or 70 if you wanted to.
Is that ±3 or ±6?
I don't know, actually. I've got the specs in front of me.
It's generally ±3.
I think it's ±3.
They're pretty good when it comes to good legit measurements, because it's an important one. It's the same with it's an equivalent to some of the spurious measurements that you guys deal with on televisions. It's all very well quoting that it goes down to X, but if that's a roll off, which is, and don't forget decibels are logarithmic. So it's a quite the difference between ±3 and ±6 is substantial. So keep tabs on that. But 52 does sound believable from a sturdy front stand mount. So yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, they claim that the 607s also go down to 52, and they're a bit smaller. So I don't know how I would take that. I mean, I always assume, I always take these measurements with a pinch of salt, which is why I tend to sort of default to a slightly higher crossover anyway.
I was just interested because I always default to 80, just no matter what I've got. That just seems to be hardwired for me, and it always works.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, when you're talking about a multi-channel system with a subwoofer, that's what the sub's there to do the heavy lifting at the low frequencies. So why not let it get on with what it's there to do, and let the other speakers concentrate on the mid-range and the higher frequencies, which is what they're there to do. So the sub itself, actually, I've got to say, 12. It's a 10. So ASW610. So the 10's in the clue there. It's a 10-inch driver. It's got how much has it got in terms of 200 watts of Class D built into it. Pretty good, and it's not a Titanic sub by any stretch of the imagination, but it does the job, and it integrates well with the rest of the system. As a 5.1 system, it sounded really good. It sounded clean and precise and detailed. Had a little bit of liveliness and a bit of fun in there that I like from a B&W speaker. And overall, it worked great with music and movies. I mean, I think, like I say, if you really want something that's going to be great with music as well, I'd probably be more inclined to go for the floor standards. But the 606s are a cracking stand mount speaker anyway. And yeah, it's a cohesive system. The center channel speaker is obviously designed to tonally match the other speakers. Of course, it is on its side. It is a different speaker. It's got two drivers and the tweeter in the middle. If you want exactly the same performance across the front, you need to use three identical speakers. But obviously, most manufacturers tend to make a dedicated center speaker that isn't exactly the same as the front, left, and rights, but is designed to sound as much like them as they can do, given the different orientation of the drivers. And it does do a good job with that. So overall, I was really pleased with it. I think yet again, it's another cracking entry-level system from B&W, who I think have always done this particularly well. So if you're looking for performance and value for money, I would definitely consider this speaker. Okay,
a couple of questions for you, Steve. First of all, technical question: what's the sensitivity on them? Are they still quite sensitive? Easy to drive?
Yes, they are easy to drive. Definitely. Sensitivity is. Let me just check. 88 dB on the 606s.
Right, so they're not too bad.
And they're 8-tone speakers. So yeah, they're easy to drive. You could drive these with any. You wouldn't have to worry about. If you've got, say, a mid-range receiver, they could definitely handle these speakers without any trouble at all.
Yeah, which is what I'm coming on to talk about in a minute, which is one of the reasons I asked you that question. The other question: have they lost the B&W signature sound? Because B&W have always had a nice warmth to their sound.
There's still that bit of warmth in the mid-range, which I think people associate with B&W, but not as pronounced as it used to be. I think there is an increase, like I say, because I think of the different driver, there is an improved sense of neutrality and detail in the sound. But there's still that little bit of warmth in there, because I think, at the end of the day, people like that. That's why people buy BMWs. I like it. That's why I used to buy BMWs in the past. And I don't think didn't want to lose their signature sound entirely, but it does sound a bit different from the previous generations, definitely. Because I had a 600 series right before I did this review, actually, before I tested these speakers. So I had a direct point of reference, and there is a different. It does sound different, but not entirely different, I think is the answer.
Okay, good stuff.
Do you want to know the prices, by the way? So I forgot to mention it.
Yeah, crack on.
So the whole system would set you back 1,799 quid. That's for the whole lot. If you break it down, 606s are £549 a pair. The centre speaker is £399. The 607s, which I was using as surrounds, $399 a pair, and the sub will set you back $399 as well.
Okay.
And if you go for the 603 floor standard, that's 1,249 quid.
Yeah, but you're buying a significantly larger speaker.
Yeah, much bigger speaker. Much bigger speaker. Yeah.
Okay. So we are round about the budget area. I don't know about the Revels. We're coming on to them in a sec, so I'm not really sure about the price point. In fact, I haven't even read the review yet. Haven't proofed it yet. But before we do, we have been speaking for quite a while, or discussing it for quite a while on the podcast, about people downsizing their systems. So maybe at one point somebody had a massive AVR and 7.2 system and all the rest of it. But there's definitely seems to be a switch for people now. I don't know whether it's the age group that use AVForums or whatever, but I have noticed that a lot of people are downsizing. I won't say downgrading, because that's not fair, but downsizing the systems. Which is why we've been looking at certain systems over the past few months, sound bars and all that kind of thing. And this little product, the Marantz NR1509, is something that I wouldn't have looked at traditionally. I wouldn't even have considered it for review, to be honest with you. But given the current climate, and also given the fact that we have complained for a number of years, Steve, at the complexity and the size of AVRs, this seems to go against what has traditionally been a general AVR design, which is a big box with all the amplification built in, every feature you could think of thrown at it, loads of stickers on the front and all the rest of it, big dials, and it creates a lot of heat. And if you look around the back, it's incredibly daunting to look at, because you think, well, where do I plug everything into? And when you've got legacy connections and everything else, it suddenly looks like a real Krypton factor puzzle. So this 1509, the NR1509, is a slim 5.2 channel AV receiver. And when you think about it and look at it, you think, well, what use is that to a home cinema fan? But like we say, if it's somebody that's looking at downsizing the system, that's certainly the mindset I went into when I was looking at one of these. You've looked at one in the past, haven't you, Steve?
I used to own one.
Right.
I had an NR1506, I think it was.
Right.
And in my case, it was because I wanted a 5.1 channel system for the lounge, because I've already got the full setup in the home cinema.
Yeah.
So it was a second system for me. But I think they're great. I don't understand why more manufacturers don't make these kind of. I think the only people I can think of that make slimline receivers like this are Marantz and Yamaha, and I think they're a great idea. You got something that isn't quite as, because like you say, a lot of AVRs, they're big, daunting boxes that you don't necessarily want in the front of your lounge. This is nice and slim. It's attractively designed. It's relatively unobtrusive. It's got a simplified rear panel with less connections and less to worry about. Just the important stuff, basically HDMI. Dead easy to set up. And I think they're a really great idea. And for people that want a 5.1 system, or perhaps are looking for a second system in another room, I think they're ideal.
Yep. So this is the 5.2 channel AV receiver. So this is the entry level that I'm looking at. There's also the NR1609, and the difference is it's a 7.2 channel.
It's a 7.2, isn't it? Yeah.
But it does the immersive. So it will do Atmos and DTSX.
What is 5.2.2?
Yeah. Whereas this is strictly 5.2. It only does DTS HD Master Audio and True HD for Dolby. It's got 6 HDMI inputs. But the clever thing here is that it is as future-proofed as you can be. So it's compatible with Dolby Vision and HDR, BT 2020. It'll do 444 video pass-through, full 60 hertz. So in terms of 4K Ultra HD stuff, you can plug it in and pass it through without any issues. Obviously it does 3D and everything else that you might have. It'll pass all that through. It's got AirPlay 2. You've got Heos on there, which is Denon's multi-room system. And I've got to say, one of the easiest things I've ever set up with Alexa. You know, a lot of the time, shut up Alexa. A lot of the times it's really it can be really time consuming to get skills to work and all the rest of it. I found the Heos app just works straight away. As soon as you're on the same network, you can tell. I'm not going to say a name because I've got the thing right next to me and it keeps going off. But you can ask for things straight away and it works. Whereas the LG TV that's also in this room, it's a nightmare to try and control through this unknown system. So from that point of view, I just found it dead easy to use. And when you look around the back, it's not daunting at all because you've got the colour-coded stuff, which Denon and Marantz have been doing for years. I think that's excellent the way they do that. You can use banana plugs. You can use 4mm banana plugs if you want to, rather than just bare wire. You've got the HDMI inputs in the back. You've also got an HDMI input on the front. And it's half the size in terms of height to a normal AVR. So you're not taking up as much room. So it doesn't look out of place sitting underneath the TV. And you've just been talking about the new B&W speakers. If you wanted to have a nice system based on this little AVR that can do 5.2 channel, it's also great with music. It's just one of these things that Marantz just does, and Denon, to be fair, do really well, is 2-channel performance as well. It really is a nice musically sounding AVR, I've got to say. It does run out of steam a little bit, but then I have been a little bit unfair. It's been powering the M&K MP300s, and I've got to say, it only runs out of steam about 6 dB under reference, which is pretty loud, and
that's louder than you can drive there, because those are 4-ohm speakers, right?
Yeah, they're 4-ohm. They are quite sensitive, but they are 4-ohm, so it drove them no problem. And the first thing to sort of go was the mid-range. So obviously, because I'm using a crossover and everything's going to the sub, and then using the speakers as satellites, which is designed to do, the mid-range tends to disappear because it's starting to strain a little bit. But that was minus 600 dB, minus 6 dB under reference, and reference in my room is 0 dB. That's how I always set it up like that. It's got Odyssey on there as well. Now I know there's better systems out there, but for this level of AVR, it's perfect. It works perfect for and for a normal living room, it'll work perfect as well. The only thing I've got against Odyssey is that I tend to find the filter for the bass filters just a little bit too aggressive when it does the automatic measurements. But with the Odyssey systems now, it is possible. It's not on this AVR, but it is possible. Although I don't know if you can do it with, maybe you could do it with the app. But you can certainly, on the higher up Odyssey models, go in and change your crossover points and blend it a little bit better if it doesn't get it quite right. But apart from that, I mean, I can't find that much wrong with it, to be honest with you. It's so up to date. It does everything you want to do. It does voice commands and that kind of thing. It'll handle 4K signals that you're sending out. It doesn't do immersive audio, but this is not for somebody that wants to immersive audio. This is for somebody that wants to, downsize their system. It is a 5-channel discrete amplifier as well, because obviously it's building on the heritage of Denon and Marantz, who do things properly. If there's one thing you learn quickly about Denon and Marantz products, is they're so well engineered, and you can see that engineering just looking through the slats in the top of the units. You can see how well the power supply is based and where they have everything else in terms of the design inside and the engineering, and really, really impressive. And the fact is, I think you can pick it up for £330. And it does high-res audio. It's got a phono input, so Ed, you can put your turntable on here. It's got a ground for it as well. You can use it with it's got a nice remote control, but you can also use it with apps and voice. I'm struggling to find an issue with it, and you've owned one, Steve, so you're probably in a better position than I am, having just spent 3 weeks with it, to highlight any issues that may be there for people.
No, I got no complaints. For that kind of money, you can't go wrong, to be perfectly honest.
Yep. Absolutely. So there you go. That's the Marantz 1509. There's a video review and written review coming for that. And like I say, it's I was struggling to find any negatives, and that's taken into account, obviously, what it's designed to do. I mean, you could say, well, it's underpowered and all the rest of it. Well, no, actually, for what it's designed to do, I think it does it extremely well. And the other thing I meant to say as well is that if you've never used the HEOS app, it's absolutely brilliant if you're streaming your music and so on. It's got every single service I can think of on there as well. So you're not going to be hard pushed for finding a source for your music and so on. So yeah, thumbs up from me. So let's move on to Ed to wrap up on hardware and audio this week. Now, we briefly discussed the Revel stand mount speakers, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to go into it in even more depth.
Yeah, this is an odd one, and I say this in the review. This was originally supposed to be a complete system. It was Arcam Electronics and the Revels. And for various reasons involving time, logistical snafus, and other things, actually just wound up being a review of the Revels. And I don't think that's a bad thing at all, because people who listen to this podcast on a regular basis will know that I have in the past been unkind about American loudspeakers. They tend to work quite well in America, but they often have one or two issues when being asked to do European things in European lounges. Revel has always been, choosing my words as carefully as possible, they've always been among the most European of the larger American speaker brands. If you looked at their speakers and you had all the badging and the identification had been removed, you would not automatically peg them as being an American product. And these are £1,000, so we are teetering on the edge of them being less affordable than the items that you gentlemen have been looking at. But they are extremely good. I'm genuinely delighted at how they've performed. There's nothing truly revolutionary either. It's all about sensible engineering done well. And it's just little things that they do that do genuinely seem to make a difference in reality. They are very, very big as a company on a waveguide. So a shallow indentation into which the tweeter is mounted and installed. So to the extent where they actually have a patent for their waveguide. And I won't lie, it works extremely well. My current listening position has speakers closer together than I historically used to have. They are about exactly two meters apart if I go to the little bits of tape that I put in to mark that. But it's now a relatively long distance from that 2 meters to the triangle to complete where I am. So there's a little bit of toe in required, and they just sang. And furthermore, they sang across a very wide selection of music. They don't need a huge amount of power to drive, which is a criticism I have levelled at American speakers in the past, where they assume that you're also going to match them with an amplifier the size of a transit van. None of the bad behaviour is present, and they simply worked really, really well across a very wide spread of music. And don't get me wrong, the choices of speakers at £1,000 are endless. It's £1,000 stand mounts all the way to £2,000. In fact, you have got more options than you can possibly imagine. But and you know, it's going to be a bold person that goes, actually, I don't want to go with the established people selling speakers in the UK. I'd like to go to a brand which, you know, doesn't have that much market penetration. But I'd fully understand why you would on hearing them. And it does sort of, I mean, we discussed this when Arcam were purchased by Harman Luxury Audio a couple of years back. They have managed to do something which is quite admirable, where they clearly are making savings in the economies of scale of owning lots of different brands together, but it doesn't seem to be affecting the ability of those brands to produce products which are recognisably their own things. So Arcam products still behave like Arcam products. Mark Levinson equipment, which I've been playing about with on a couple of occasions over the last 12 months, still looks, feels and behaves like Mark Levinson equipment. And again, these Revels, they are sort of transatlantic, the Lloyd Grossman of the speaker world, if you will. They have the facets of both American and European behavior, but they really, really work extremely well. So that review, I believe, will go up some point in the week. And yeah, feel free to impart your thoughts on it, because I was one of those reviews where, because I wasn't geared and mentally geared up for looking at them on their own, I didn't really know what to expect, but I came away really very, very pleasantly surprised. I mean, I suppose if you wanted the ultimate sort of compliment, it's busy on a review schedule here. I didn't rush to get them back in the box.
Yeah, always telling that. American Speakers, to me, and certainly brands that I have owned and listened to and been along to shows and all the rest of it, they all tend to have too much bass. That's
there is
always
an element
been
of that.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, they have this large rear port, but as I have pointed out in the past, and you have mocked me for pointing this out in the past, it is nothing that a balled up pair of socks won't cure. If you can't put them in free space, and you've got to bear in mind from an American's perspective, the room sizes do genuinely allow for a bit more free space positioning. So when you say, actually, I need to get them within 30 centimetres of a rear wall, the natural response will be why. So, but no, balled up pair of socks are your friends. It doesn't significantly alter the bass response either, which is substantial. It's not a small stand mount. It's a 6.5-inch driver, and it's a relatively hefty cabinet. And it's a very respectable bass extension. Obviously, I'm not crossing over to a sub. I can't remember what Revel quoted, but I was showing no discernible roll-off in room down to high 40 hertz figures, which is, I mean, it's not Dynaudio special 40 levels of lunacy, but that's not bad.
Yeah, so it was well behaved and balanced, is what you're saying, because in the past
it was
I have
a
found
genuinely
it
civilized thing, and it's beautifully made. I mean, obviously, you would expect a £1,000 product to be well made. Let's not undersell what most people are perfectly capable of, but the finish is exceptional. It's one of those products which goes into my unfortunate category of things that look better in the flesh than they do in the photos. We had the conversation about cleaning products last week. These were a particular offender of that because they've got a piano black finish and we're just attracting fingerprints right, left and centre. But it's a nicely proportioned, beautifully finished thing, and they're not going to look hulking and out of place in a normal UK lounge, which is also an advantage. I really hope that Revel gets a bit of traction and does very well with it. Okay, good stuff. So that's our hardware wrapped up this week. So all those reviews will be up at some point over the next 7 days. If you listening to this on the Monday when this podcast goes out. So look out for them. They'll all be on the homepage, and there's also a video with the Marantz. Right, where that's hardware out of the way, we'll be back in a sec with music news. So don't panic, we're moving on to movies in a sec, but I've always felt it a little bit strange that we do Ed's playlist and album and vinyl in the hardware section. It should really be in the software section of the podcast. So we've created the music news area at the end of the month. So Ed, crack on. What have we got? Playlist, album and vinyl? Right. Album of the month was a bit of an unexpected one. One, because I didn't know it was coming out, and two, because it's better than I hoped it was going to be. It's by a British band called The Comet Is Coming, and I need to type the title in because it's quite a substantial title. It's really from the days of prog rock. It's called Trust in the Life Force of the Deep Mystery, which isn't very snappy, and obviously the band name is a bit weird, but nonetheless this is an absolutely blinding piece of music. It defies easy description as to what it sounds like. I did initially think about saying it was like being hit in the face by an entire jazz band, but that doesn't really, it's got more delicacy than that. And then I thought about maybe it sounds a bit like a jazz band trying to cover the stereo MCs, but that again isn't a completely accurate description of what it sounds like. The best I can do is, in the past I've discussed my love of the Japanese cartoon Cowboy Bebop, which had a soundtrack by a Japanese jazz group called the Seatbelts. It appears to go fist in glove that all these bands have stupid names. This honestly sounds like the sort of thing that would be written for this much purported Netflix remake. It just sounds like a film score, and their first album did as well. And it's my album of the month because it's available across all the streaming services. If you're a Tidal or Qobuz subscriber, there's a high-res version of it as well. I have bought it on vinyl because obviously I'm a lunatic and that sort of thing I do. It's an excellent vinyl pressing, but it's more of a general thing. This is, I mean, if you think, oh, jazz, I don't want anything to do with that. It's not sort of Miles Davis and sort of weird time signatures. It's a big, confident, funky sounding piece of music, and I really, really enjoyed it. So feel free to give it a listen. You'll probably go, Ed, that sounds weird, and we'll leave it be. Vinyl, that also came out last Friday. Cinematic Orchestra. Now, if you read any of my reviews, well done. But you'll notice that, I mean, I've been using the Cinematic Orchestra as a band that I've referenced for donkey's years, and it has been donkey's years since their last album. But they released a new one finally on Friday. It's called To Believe. And this also sounds excellent on digital, but Cinematic Orchestra is signed to the Ninja Tune record label, British company, and they haven't done a bad vinyl release in the last 5 or 6 years, and this is absolutely no exception. It is a truly outstanding analog pressing. It's big, it's dynamic, it's confident, very low noise floor. You can buy a 2-color version, or you can just buy a slightly more affordable one in just the standard black pressings. It's absolutely brilliant. It moves on a bit. Are you not convinced?
I only had one listen to it, and some of it I thought was excellent. Some of it I thought was actually below par for them.
Well, I get that. I mean, I have to say, it tails off. There's no question. It delivers 4 great tracks in the first 5, and it probably would have, I don't know whether it would have benefited from a slightly different running order. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think the thing we have to accept with the Cinematic Orchestra is that they released their first sort of 2 big releases, Motion and Everyday, are modern masterpieces, and they involved musicians who are no longer part of the project, and had a different sort of presentation which they're not looking to go back to do. So it's a case in a part of letting go of what the original sounded like and just sort of going with what they're doing now. And yeah, I just enjoyed it, and I thought the vocal turns by Moses Sumney, Roots Maneuver is back. I haven't heard Roots Maneuver do anything in years, and it's just lovely to hear him do stuff again. So I think it's a decent effort, and it's an absolutely outstanding piece of plastic. But if you were going to listen to one thing this month, the Comet is coming. They're the new guys. They're the dynamic ones.
I've got to say, my favourite Cinematic Orchestra is actually a soundtrack that they did for Crimson Wing.
Yes, that is good.
That is, I would say, that's probably the strongest album, in a sense of all the tracks are quite strong all the way through, which is the To Believe. I just thought, like you say, it starts really well and then it really tails off, and I thought some of it was like, maybe you should have taken a little bit more time, because it's
been 11 years, but yeah. Fair enough.
You know what I mean.
And then playlist, Tidal has gone really off the boil lately. So it is not a Tidal playlist. However, those keen French types over at Deezer, they have a weekly playlist that updates of new electronic music, and it's never going to hit the heights of some of the old Blips and Blops playlists that Tidal used to do and then stopped for some reason. But there's some good tracks on there. It's steered me in the direction of some new artists, so I've been enjoying that and playing about with it. So yeah, that's all pretty good as well. As ever, if you're not a Deezer subscriber, I believe you can access, I could probably provide the URL of the playlist if you really wanted it, and you can use the Soundies app to change it into whichever streaming service you happen to be using at the time.
Okay, I thought we were we not going to do a thing on Spotify?
I was, but I'm just inept. I was going to say busy, but inept I think is a probably more accurate answer. I will get something together, and we can work it out from there.
Right.
But yeah.
So sometime in the next 7 months, end of the month.
Yeah,
We'll make it there summer. Right. Okay, good stuff. It always is good stuff. You always have fairly decent recommendations, Ed. I've got to say, I've picked up quite a few recently, so there we go. Good stuff. So it's time to move on to movies, and as we do, let's start with the news, because there are a few newsworthy things. One of them, I think it was you that predicted this one, Steve, that James Gunn was going to find his way back at Disney.
Yeah. Particularly after he went and started, basically, as soon as he got dumped from Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Volume 3, DC, Warner's like, yep, get him on board. You can do Suicide Squad, because they'd already sacked David Ayer. Yeah, so I thought as soon as they did that, I bet they wanted him back now. And sure enough, yeah, they've rehired him. They've done a deal with, obviously they can't start principal photography till he's finished doing Suicide Squad, but they've done a deal with Warner's so they can plan out his time. And basically, after he's finished Suicide Squad, or as it's called, I think, The Suicide Squad, he'll be doing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. He's already written the script, so basically that's done. Which is, I mean, I think most people would be happy with that news. I mean, it was ridiculous that they sacked him in the first place. It was ludicrous, the whole situation. And he's done a fantastic job on the first two films. So I think everyone, basically for fans of comic book movies, it's win-win. We get a James Gunn Suicide Squad movie followed by James Gunn Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So, yeah, great.
What do you think of this one, Kaz?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic news. I'm actually surprised that they didn't about turn, because they seemed so adamant. It was such a ridiculous decision that I couldn't understand how they could possibly change their minds, because once they decided to make a ridiculous decision, it seemed like it would only make them look ludicrous for admitting that. And they didn't. They passed it off as, we've let it go, and what's done is done, and we've forgiven you. You can come back. But to anyone who's followed it, it looks like Disney massively backtracking and seeing that they could lose a very good director. I think they assumed that everyone else would exile him from Hollywood and would treat him as an outcast. I have no idea why they thought that would happen. It's
even more ridiculous because the tweets that he, and they were in poor taste. So they were done over a decade ago, when he was trying to be a shock comedian at the time. Those tweets, they'd already been picked up on them when he was first announced for Guardians of the Galaxy. Someone pointed out these tweets, and he apologized at the time, and it was all done and dusted. And then because he made some anti-Trump comments, some right winger started dragging it all up again, and Disney, because they just sacked Roseanne Barr for very good reasons, they felt that they had to react, and I'm pretty sure Kevin Feige did not want to do it. And I think once they let the dust settle, and obviously once DC zoomed in and swooped in and picked him up, they looked like idiots, and they just thought, "We'll wait a little bit, and then we'll get him back." Because you kind of suspected that was going to happen because they hadn't announced a replacement director for a film that's supposed to be in production. So, I'll be interested to see what happens with Marvel's post-Endgame slate, because as far as I'm aware, apart from Spider-Man Far From Home, which is obviously coming out in the summer, I don't know what's coming out next year from Marvel.
I thought they'd talked about Doctor Strange 2.
Well, they've talked about a lot of stuff, but if you look at their slate, nothing's actually been. There are film release dates penciled in, but no actual titles.
I mean, to be fair,
because the first one was supposed to be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. That was going to be the next after Spider-Man.
Yeah, I'd have preferred if they hadn't announced any of them.
Well, announcing Spider-Man Far From Home is a bit of a clue. He's obviously going to survive Endgame.
And I don't mind that it seems quite obvious that he's going to survive. The frustrating thing is that they act like it's going to be some kind of mystery. Who makes it?
Yeah, it's like they just made 1.3 billion off of Black Panther. I think they're going to make a Black Panther too.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Disney have come out of it looking like idiots, and they deserve to be honest, because what they did was stupid.
Okay, well, it's good news that he's back on, and it'll be interesting to see what the movie's like. Right, lots of trailers out at the moment for lots of nice things that are coming soon. So we're mentioning Endgame. There's been a new trailer for that, and it just piques interest even more, because they're showing even
I'm really glad for once, because there was a time when a lot of trailers, you watch the trailer and you basically have seen the film. Whereas with these trailers for Endgame, I mean, apparently the footage you've seen in both trailers
isn't in the film.
Well, either takes place in the first 15 minutes of the movie or isn't even in the film at all. They deliberately shot misleading footage.
Yeah, so he said exactly that. He said too many moviegoers can predict the entire film from the trailers. So I don't watch trailers for that reason. You can literally tell if they're not wearing X costume, then they're going to have to star in X scene within the movie, and you're waiting for that to happen. So you can piece it together. If you watch a 2.5 minute trailer, you can piece together most of what happens in a movie. So It's fantastic that they've done this. Still not going to watch it, but it's fantastic that they've done it.
Yeah, and Strange Things 3 trailer dropped as well. And again, they're not giving much away there, are they? It's you can tell that obviously they're teenagers now. There's no stopping that ever happening.
I think this is the last one, right? Because
it's got to be. Yeah, it's got to be. Yeah, yeah. But they're certainly going with that teenager vibe with it anyway, in terms of storylines and so on. So, but they're not giving that much away. It's just it's all going to happen on the 4th of July, 1985.
I assume they mean that's a clue that it's going to be on the 4th of July this year. That it streams.
Probably.
It'll be available for streaming on the 4th of July.
Yeah, but I believe the incident happens on the 4th of July within the season.
The whole point was that's also going to be the date of the thing.
Yeah.
I guess that's why it's in July. But it looked great. I mean, it really piqued my interest, and we've been on the journey with these kids now for 2 seasons, and if they want to pull off a third one to finish things off, I'd be up for that.
Yep, absolutely. And John Wick 3.
That looked awesome.
Didn't it? It just... I thought, where are they going to go with this? But actually, it
everywhere, by the looks of it.
It looks like it.
There's a shot of him, isn't there? A shot of him walking through the desert.
There is a shot of him walking through the desert with, like, 2 dogs. It's, and on a horse. But anyway, it looks fantastic. I can't wait for that. I have to say, I've obviously... like 12-year build up to Endgame, but I am also really looking forward to John Wick 3.
Yeah, there's the line with all this over a puppy, and it's like, well, hang on, they also stole and wrecked his Boss 302.
They didn't wreck it, didn't he wreck it?
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
They just sold it or wanted to sell it.
I've got to say, that was one of the most painful things to watch on screen. Was that? To hell with the dog. Yeah. So some great looking trailers coming up, and I've got to say, we mentioned it last week, but I think the 3D is going to be absolutely stellar on Avengers. Yeah, absolutely. So I shall be booking my tickets as soon as it's available for 3D IMAX.
It's not out far, isn't it? 26th of April. I think.
It's almost a month. Yeah, it's a month. Yeah.
They're leaving it very late to release to open the box office to booking tickets.
I don't think there'll be a run, because
no, I don't mean for them. I mean for us. It's actually going to be, people are actually going to be scrambling to buy tickets.
No, I don't think that's going to happen either, because I thought that about the Star Wars and so on, and midnight screenings and all the rest of it.
And but everyone's sick of Star Wars. Everyone actually wants to see it.
Well, I'm on about when Star Wars first came back, and we were all in a panic and thinking, but there was still plenty of room and plenty of tickets on opening day.
It's going to be on hundreds and hundreds of screens, isn't it?
I wait to see if it can actually persuade me to do a 20-odd mile round trip and pay money and interact with other people. Be interesting. See if it actually has the pull to do that.
Have you seen the other ones?
Yes.
Right, so it's probably worth 3 hours of your time.
Probably is a strong word in this sentence. We'll see. I don't think it's possible. I mean, you are all keen cinephiles and film goers. I'm a bit more ambivalent. I say a lot more ambivalent, and I can't describe easily how much I hate modern cinemas. They're horrible.
Well, I have a newfound love for 3D IMAX recently.
I've got all of that technology at the door, and the Milton Keynes Odeon in particular is new, shiny, and in an excellent state of repair. Unfortunately, it's also full of the residents of Milton Keynes, so it's not ideal. So we'll see how we go.
Right. Okay. Right, let's go to Kaz. First of all, best streaming films of the month, Kaz. You've sat and watched them all.
You poor bastard.
I have. It's a tough call for this one, but I'm going to sneak in and say that because I didn't realise, but Under the Silver Lake is actually available on Mubi, and that's streaming. So I'm going to call it a streaming film, and I'm going to say that that's the best streaming film of the month. I would have gone for Triple Frontier, but I don't think they stuck the landing there. That was Netflix's best offering of the month. I found that the film I most thought about afterwards was Under the Silver Lake. So it's by the guy who did It Follows, and David Robert Mitchell. And for those who've seen It Follows, it was very atmospheric, fantastic score by Disaster Piece, and very tense horror, but unusual tense horror. And so everyone's been eagerly anticipating a follow-up. And he's done this really weird, offbeat LA noir. It kind of feels like a modern Chinatown, but isn't. And it follows Andrew Garfield's Loser about Hollywood, where he just uncovers one increasingly weird occurrence over another while searching for a girl he met once and has started obsessing over. It's crazy. You get to the end of it, and some of it's just so hard to comprehend what's going on. It's like watching a hipster version of Mulholland Drive by David Lynch.
Yeah, because of course that's a famously easy to follow film.
Yeah, well, by comparison, I can make sense of Mulholland Drive. I mean, this one's an odd watch, so very Marmite. Some people just went, no, that's not working for me, and I can completely understand why. There's a lot of odd stuff that happens in this film, but also a very a nice get into your head kind of movie, because it does leave you going, well, what's that? What does that mean? And how and who is that? So and that's quite a nice feeling sometimes when watching a new movie. So I'd probably rate that as I was sneaking it in as one of the best streaming films of the month.
Okay. Anything else worth seeing on streaming services this month?
Well, I think if we're just talking movies, or are we going back? Are we expanding onto series?
No, we're doing TV in a bit. So
okay, so I'd probably say that people should check out Triple Frontier. Now, it's not as good as it could have been, but it's still a lot of fun. And the guy J.C. Chandor picked it up from Catherine Bigelow's original project. So Bigelow wrote it to do off the back of Zero Dark 30, and she had a huge cast: Will Smith, Johnny Depp, Tom Hanks, all kinds of big names attached to it, and it was going to be her next big project. And she went off and did Detroit, and it got picked up by J.C. Chandor, who's a much smaller director. He did Margin Call, and he did All Is Lost, which is like Gravity at Sea with Robert Redford, and that's a lot of fun. Anyway, he's got a smaller cast, a Netflix-sized cast, but still a lot of familiar faces. Got Oscar Isaac and Ben Affleck are front runners in there, and it's about a group of ex-military veterans who have probably found integrating back into society quite tough. And aren't particularly doing well for money. And they hear about a project which could involve getting revenge upon a big cartel leader out in South America, and also scoring big with his house full of money. And they hopscotch it out there to see what they can see. Now, it's an intriguing premise and a very tense raid. But it all goes a bit odd after that, and I don't think he quite nails the landing. But as Netflix films go, they've got a fantastic setting, really makes the most of that setting, and a real game cast. And it's well worth checking out. So
Right, okay, so let's do what Steven Spielberg would say and move on to proper films that are shown in the cinema. So what was our film of the month now? For March, I went to see two, and for me it has to be Captain Marvel. Don't think there's anything else. So
no, I think I'd have to agree with that. I had some problems with it. and
it has some structural issues, I think, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was very entertaining. I thought Sam Jackson was clearly having the most fun he's had in years.
I don't know what they did to make him look younger, and then they made Clark Gregg look really
Clark Gregg,
yeah, Clark Gregg. They look really classic.
Greg Clark.
Greg Clark.
Greg Clark. Greg.
Yeah. But anyway, Captain Marvel was film of the month.
It was fun.
Yes.
Yeah, it was. It was entertaining. Right, so films opening this week. Who's volunteering for this one then?
Well, let the films editor do it. That's his job.
Well, we got Dumbo coming out this month, which is everybody's been looking forward to this. Another live-action Disney movie. Tim Burton is possibly the only reason why this might turn out to be interesting.
They are shitting on my childhood, and I hope it bombs.
Sit on the fence, Ed.
Given that you're not someone who goes to see it, whether or not they are definitely your past memories, it's probably not going to make any difference.
No, they're not going to miss your tenner.
Yeah, he'll make the trip for this one just to sit at the back and boo.
No, but that means I have to pay money, or I'd have to pay money for another film and then sneak in the back and throw popcorn from there.
Well, you could just go outside like Father Ted with a down with this sort of thing placard.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to, but Dumbo it's obviously it's extremely short, but it is perfection. It is my favourite.
I don't know what you're talking about. They're doing all of them. They're doing all of their Disney movies. They're just working through them.
Well, yeah, they should have just left us all alone.
Just picked Dumbo. Yeah, I know, but they should have left them all alone. But they're not. So we're getting them. I mean, Lion King. We're going to get them all. We have like 2 Jungle Books. We're going to get them all. So I'm not sure that this is your favourite of all of them is going to stop them.
Well, it just particularly rankles. So
what I'd have preferred them to do is do a Maleficent, do a spin-off angle, do a to any of them. I'd
have tolerated that. Yes.
That. Yeah.
Well, I think Dumbo does to a degree because Dumbo kind of really concentrates on what happens because the original Dumbo he flies and that's it, isn't it? The film ends. It's a very short movie. This kind of begins with him flying and then takes to new areas. So. It's more of a sequel in that sense than it is a direct remake.
Yeah. And I think Kaz is right. Tim Burton directing.
Yes.
Michael Keaton.
It could have an interesting angle to it.
I don't think it's just a weird one. It's a nature of animation versus live action that obviously we've got the vast resources of modern technology at our disposal, but it's still going to look a bit weird as a flying elephant thing in a way that the cartoon just brushed off and just ran with it. And and I would also, being slightly heretical here, Tim Burton has done some absolutely cracking films. He just has done rather few of them recently.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes as well.
I mean, it's almost like these Disney CGIers. They found the power to do it, but they didn't actually stop to think if they should.
Ooh. Just get Jeff Goldblum to deliver that. And,
do it far better than I did. Anything else, Kaz?
Captive State. So Rupert Wyatt, who did the second of the New Apes movies, Rise of the Planet of the Apes. He's directed this sci-fi thriller. It's a post-alien invasion movie where we're under martial law after having had an invasion. So could be interesting, small scale, interesting. John Goodman, always worth time and effort. So yeah, that's what else is coming out. I mean, at the moment, everything's playing it very quiet because everyone's waiting for Endgame. I don't think anyone's really releasing anything huge apart from Shazam. But yeah.
Well, that's a shame because we've got a big bank holiday weekend in the middle of the month. There's absolutely nothing coming up that weekend.
Well, Shazam's coming out.
I fancy Shazam. That's quite fun.
Yeah, I think DC are taking a risk with something, but I mean, it has been pretty quiet. And I know it can't all be Avengers Endgame, but someone must have sat down and gone, between Captain Marvel and Endgame, do we really want to release any movies? No. So But DC are taking a chance with Shazam, and I don't think that's a bad call, because the people who are going to go and see it are going to go and see it whenever.
What is that noise?
I don't know.
Sounds like someone's doing a scratch card or colouring something in.
It might be, actually, it's when Kazi's talking, it may be his mic rubbing up against something. You got stubble?
I've got a beard.
That's what it'll be then.
Probably it then, yeah.
Oh, awesome sound.
Right. Okay, so that's what's coming up at the movies, if you want to go at the movies. If not, if you want to stay at home, disc-wise, what's coming up, Kaz?
We've got Pet Sematary, the original, coming out in 4K. We got Creed 2, the sequel to Creed, and also the kind of sequel to Rocky 4 that everyone's looking forward to, 4K. The Girl in the Spider's Web, the sequel to the other Girl and Dragon Tattoo trilogy that no one's looking forward to, and Robin Hood, the reboot that no one wanted. Also 4K. They're all 4K.
As ever, your ability to just generate excitement when describing these releases, Kaz, is second to none. You ever consider being an auctioneer?
People want Pet Sematary because the new Pet Sematary is coming out, and no one wants the new one, so people are going to enjoy the old one in 4K. Creed 2, I'm really looking forward to seeing what that's like on 4K. I think that I was surprised by Creed that they managed to pull that off, like rebooting the Rocky.
Yeah, it's not Ryan Coogler though, is it? So
it isn't, but I mean, I think it's got enough magic bringing back Dolph. So I got time for that. Now I have seen Girl in the Spider's Web. It's the Girl in the Dragon Tattoo for the Born Bond generation. It's utterly generic. It's another one of those movies where they throw in all of the elements into a big mixer and then randomize it and decide, we'll have this is the beginning and you've seen it in a movie before, and this is the end, and this is the set piece in the middle. It's bland nonsense in comparison to the original trilogy and even the David Fincher remake. And Robin Hood, I do not have any time for this Robin Hood. Has anyone?
Is that why you've given it to Simon?
Yes, pretty much. Yes.
I bought it.
You know what? I had to take one, and he had to take one, and I took the Spider's Web, and he took Robin Hood.
I bought Robin Hood because it's got Dolby Vision and HDR10 Plus on the same disc.
Not sure if that's the case for the UK disc though.
Oh, okay.
The only reason you buy Robin Hood is, like Steve said, it's got HDR10 Plus and it's got Dolby Vision, so you can flick between the two when you're testing things. So that's the only reason I would be buying one. But like I say, when you look at the back of the UK disc, it doesn't say anything.
Well, it might be because it was Lionsgate in the States. It may not be Lionsgate in this country. Then it could be a different distributor, which may be the reason.
Yeah, I need to go and physically pick the disc up and have a look. Yeah, because all I've seen is a photograph of the back cover so far. Right, okay, so that's the discs. Discs of the month. I'm going to go with Bohemian Rhapsody because it didn't come out in the UK till the 4th of March, and I didn't pick up my disc till the 4th of March, and I haven't had anything else this month, so by default, it's my best.
It's both your best and worst disc. I haven't bought any film discs. You'll be staggered to hear.
I'm not surprised at that, Ed. I'm waiting on Steve coming in with about 76 that he's bought recently.
I was going to let Kaz have a crack first if he wants.
All right, okay.
Overlord.
No, that's going to be my choice.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't have let me have a go first. It was, I loved it. Sure, Schindler's List has come out this month, but I'm sorry, I pick Overlord. It's a whole lot of fun. It was.
You prefer your Nazis undead rather than nuanced.
Yeah, or blown to hell in Dolby Vision, vibrant color, not black and white. So I did not expect Overlord to be this good. I mean, it is a B movie to the max. It's never playing in the top leagues, but it's a lot of fun. Total shoot up.
Sounds great.
Yeah, it does. The Atmos track's fantastic, and the opening scene is tremendous. Where they're going on their plane run and they get blown out of the sky. It's It's fabulous, and
I'm gonna have to go and pick this up now.
Yeah, it is. It's you got it.
No, you should get it. It's great.
Phil, I think you'd really enjoy it. It's a lot of no-brainer fun.
Well, you were going to say good, clean fun, but it's neither.
It's not
good, bloody fun.
And it is. Yeah, it's proper gruesome, grungy. It's tremendous.
Okay, so there you go. Bohemian Rhapsody or Overlord is our discs of the month. Right, so to wrap up this week, we always wrap up on TV shows. There's been plenty on the TV recently. We always do best of, but can I just intersect here probably the most disappointing and one that I really couldn't watch, and that was the return of Alan Partridge. I just found it unwatchable because they've had to go so over the top now with the character because of the way things are in the real world. It's like they're having to over exaggerate and over egg it, and for me that's just I managed it to episode 2 and I had to give up. And that's not like me. I absolutely love Alan, but for me I just think they've pushed it too far. I might give it another go, but so far it's really been really disappointing.
Yeah,
Anybody else?
I'm not watching it just for that point. I'd really rather just kind of, I want to remember Alan as he was. You know, I think you're absolutely right in the sense that TV has now kind of, the concepts that Alan Partridge pitched all those years ago.
And Chris Morris.
Oh God, everything is now the day-to-day. Can we be very clear about this?
Absolutely. Which is why they've had to over-egg him so much that it's now just uber surreal and it's not funny anymore.
Well, I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't watched it. My reservations about Steve Coogan are well known. It's interesting. It does genuinely seem to have divided opinions amongst friends of mine that have watched it. Many people come down the same side as Phil. Other people still really, really enjoying it. So, meh. You know, best of luck to him, and you know, his proclivities are, you know, what they are. And
okay, so it'd be interesting
report on them freely.
It'd be interesting to see what our audience thinks. So, add your comments, YouTube video or on the forums. What did you think of Alan Partridge? It was hyped as a big return, and it could have been, but it seems to be dividing
I think
people
it's
down.
quite funny. I've been enjoying it.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, well, everyone else will have been watching highbrow and worthy things. Can I just put a note in, because I love watching it, and that's Inside the Factory. What an absolutely joyous hour where I learn things. And as I say, I'm really looking forward to it making the jump into 4K, because just capturing the glimpses on the factory workers as they wonder if they can feed Greg Wallace into the giant machine that they're standing next to at any given point, that's half the joy of the program. But this is going to make me sound even sadder than I already am, but the one this week where they went to the pencil factory, how they make pencils, that was brilliant. What an absolutely joyous hour of programming.
I'm sorry, but that again could have been an Alan Partridge thing. Greg Wallace round a pencil factory.
Well, be that as it may, yes, this is half the problem. Examining where satire ends and wholesome reality actually begins is something that you could probably write a proper doctoral thesis on. But I really like it. I really enjoy seeing how these things are done, and it's incredibly, you know, modern production techniques are just incredibly clever. And I make no bones about the fact that if you stop learning about things, that's sort of tantamount to giving up. So at least I now know how pencils are made.
Good for you.
So yeah.
Right, so Mark's not been around for a while. So Mark, what you've been watching on TV? What's what's your big recommendations, and not just for this month, but since the last time you were on?
Well, if we're talking about the big return, it's not obviously Alan Partridge. It's Forged in Fire. Back on TV.
Oh yes.
What channel's it on?
Oh Christ. Something way down.
A long way down the dial.
Yeah.
It's not in HD. Let's leave it at that.
No, it's on Etch-a-Sketch. But it means I no longer have to kind of scrabble around YouTube for that one day when someone uploads it on a kind of what always seemed to be like a strange Chinese propaganda channel or something. I don't know. I never fully worked it out. But the other video is when you click on the other videos and you realise that it's just like CCTVs of lorries coming and going, and you're thinking, what have I got myself into here? But yeah, Forged in Fire's back, and it's brilliant, and it's the kind of show that just it wouldn't work in this country.
No,
it wouldn't.
absolutely
It
not.
has to be Americans, kind of men from Alabama over-egging their own abilities before passing out as they realise that having 4 forges all back to back actually
In a
creates quite
closed
lot of
studio.
yeah, creates a lot of heat.
Mark,
Yeah.
have you seen Knife or Death yet?
No, I keep meaning to.
It's the spin-off of Forged in Fire, and if you thought Forged in Fire was a bit ridiculous, Knife or Death turns it up to a solid 15 out of 10 of stupidity. I watched an episode the other night, and it's like, oh my word. You wouldn't have thought that a raw chicken would be quite the level of challenge that it is. But without giving anything away, the raw chicken is a significant challenge. So yeah, I completely agree. It's compulsive and terrible viewing. It has everything. So yeah,
there's a whole other world of streaming out there. I watch a lot of programs on TV.
Yes, we know.
Yeah, we know that.
So I have not heard of any of these programs.
Oh yeah,
Kaz, if you discovered Forged in Fire, I'm afraid you'd have
Forged
that would
in
be
Fire and
you'd just
Knife
have-
or Death.
Kaz, if you had to add Forged in Fire to your list of things to watch, I'm afraid that would be it. You'd suffer a mental breakdown and we'd lose you. For the good of film reviews for AVForums, I'm afraid you can't watch it until later
You're
on.
barred. Yeah, you're
Lucky
barred.
you didn't mention it then.
It's just an incredible program. It has everything and nothing going for it at the same time. So
Anything else, Mark?
I tell you what, I caught up with something that I'd been meaning to watch for quite a while on Netflix called Happy. I don't know if anyone watched this. It's based on a graphic novel, comic books series by Grant Morrison, who's, if anyone knows kind of his work, he's very much more from the kind of the Alan Moore kind of end of kind of mad British comic book writers and that kind of thing.
He did some great Batman stories back in the day.
Yeah, and it's kind of just about a disgraced cop turned hitman who kind of has to track down his daughter with the help of her imaginary friend who's a blue unicorn. And it's genuinely absurdist, crass, and kind of thoroughly over the top. And it really it's one of those moments where you get something truly irreverent, truly in the kind of alternative comic book style, translating well to TV. So yeah, I really enjoyed that.
can I also put one in? I dare say it's a bit of a busman's holiday for Phil, but I've been thoroughly enjoying it. Is 24 Hours in Police Custody. It's absolutely brilliant piece of television. For those of us who didn't do any time in law enforcement, which I imagine is probably the bulk of our listeners as well, I just think it's absolutely outstanding television. Really, really good. And I think quite sensitively done as well.
Okay. Some good
I was with
there.
you right until you said quite sensitively done.
What do you mean?
Strike that off the list.
I think that it's shot in such a way. Would you agree that it could be more exploitative than it actually is?
Well, yeah. No, you make a good point.
It could have been a lot more shock and awe than it actually was, I felt. And I enjoy it the more for that. I mean, unfortunately for them, they have already had the greatest episode they will ever show in the last season, where it turned out it was one of the police officers doing it. And for sheer, oh my God moment, I don't think that, unless they have a complete, cache of bent coppers ready to go, they're never going to top that. But it's still a great, great piece of television.
Good. Sticking with the reality stuff, Top Gear was a really short series. I wasn't expecting it to finish last week. I guess they're bringing the new guys in over the summer then, so that's why they've cut it short. And I've got
the trailer's already appeared on Twitter.
And I've got to say, really disappointing. Really, really disappointing. I thought,
this season just
just gone. I mean, I thought Matt LeBlanc and Chris Harris last season were getting on really well, and it was starting to gel a little bit, and it was and some really genuine laugh out loud moments last season. This one that's just passed, really disappointing. It was almost like, let's just throw it together and get it out there. And it was like a half season as well, so I think they just thought once he said he wasn't going to do any more, they just thought, well, let's just cut our losses now and go. And unfortunately, one of the YouTube channels that I do like watching, car-related, Carfaction, Rory Reed's turned up on that and he's ruined it. So my one joy, which was Henry doing his car reviews, and I do like Henry Catchpole. He's really good. He's got a nice way of talking, natural way of talking to the camera and explaining things. And the other guy on there, Alex Goy, he's really quite good as well. But the others, and then Rory Reid turned up, and Rory, he just did a Land Rover video for the new Evoque, and it was basically a Top Gear review, and the comment section was hilarious. But yeah, Top Gear was a bit of a bust. I've got to say, Grand Tour is doing okay.
I thought this episode just gone was beautifully shot. Music is starting to make a reappearance in the whole thing. It helped going to a part of the world which I've not been to, although once again I'm going to have to get my ass to Baku at some point. It looks unbelievable. It helped that it's a part of the world that hasn't been covered by other Top Gear or the Grand Tour up until this point, and 3 reasonably interesting cars with it, although none of them apparently as well driven as an absolutely shagged Renault 9.
Yeah. It's interesting though that they do that. They go to these countries because I'm sure the last Top Gear, or one of the last Top Gears, I'm sure they did the whole driving through Iraq and then Syria and all the rest of it, and it just all went to pot after they'd been there. So just waiting on Georgia flaring up. No.
Well, Georgia's been on the verge of flaring up for the last 25 years, so it's a...
Yeah, so that's the car stuff out of the way. Steve will agree with me on this one, but I've just got right up to Orville. My God, that just gets better and better and better each episode at the minute. The whole Identity Part 1 and Part 2, Steve.
That was just an episode. Wasn't that just full on Star Trek? I mean, there weren't even any knob gags in that. It was just straight out.
Yeah, it was.
It was blown their entire budget on that.
It was
2 episodes.
It was stunning, that one, and then the one with the Krill, the trying to make peace. Yeah, with Krill as well. I mean, that was such a well done.
There wasn't one this week. Next week's is the last one of this season.
Yeah, but I've got to say, it's just gotten better and better this season.
And to be honest, I'm also really enjoying Star Trek Discovery.
I've missed Discovery for a few weeks. I'm actually letting them build up a little bit, and then I'm going to spend a weekend binging them on the projector. To be honest,
I can see why
they've got really good.
Yeah, I can see why Star Trek fans wouldn't like it, but as a non-Star Trek fan, I'm quite enjoying it.
Well, I quite like the way it throws back. I mean, the way they spliced into the original series in one of the episodes.
Yeah, that was quite cool.
That was really nicely done. I thought that was well developed. So, it's got really good.
Yeah, just wrapping up on TV. I'll come to you in a sec, Steve, just for you to wrap it all up. But if anybody likes Billy Connolly, I'm not sure how old it is. It didn't feel like it was a brand new series, but it's on iPlayer at the minute. Billy Connolly, Made in Scotland. It's 2 episodes. I love the man. I think he's a cracking comedian.
It's relatively new. That was just up in January.
Was it? Right. Well, it's still on iPlayer. I caught up with it this weekend, and I've got to say, I've a lot of respect for the guy. He's a really, really nice bloke, and it's just really well put together. It's 2 episodes, just basically chronicling his life and where he comes from, and him talking about it and the people he's met along the way and how he built his career. And he's brutally honest, and he talks about his illness and Parkinson's and all the rest of it. And if you've any love for Billy Connolly, it's well worth watching that. It's 2 episodes, and it's still on iPlayer. And I caught that at the weekend. Really enjoyed it. Right, Steve, wrap it up for us.
It's been a good month for sci-fi actually, because we've got The Expanse. Season 3 is now on Amazon, and Season 4 I think is coming later this year on Amazon, and that's brilliant. So if you haven't seen that, I recommend it highly. You can watch all 3 seasons in 4K. I noticed that again, as typical with Amazon, they hid that away, so I only realised halfway through watching Season 3, but actually they've got all 3 seasons there in 4K for you to watch if you want and if you can find it. I really enjoyed Love, Death and Robots on Netflix. They're all like 10-15 minute long little sort of short stories. The animation varies. It's kind of some very CG lifelike animation, photoreal animation, and more stylized animation, but some of them are really good. I enjoyed that. I thought it was a good series, and it's easy to watch. You can sort of slip an episode in here and there whenever you feel. I've only got 15 minutes spare. And I also enjoyed Afterlife, Ricky Gervais's Netflix series.
I really want to see that. It's just finding the time to do it. I know they're not very long, but it's just finding the...
You can watch it in 3 hours.
Yeah, it's finding the 3 hours at the minute. That's the problem. But,
the best TV of March has got to be Afterlife and Love, Death and Robots, and it's interesting that they're the shortest episodes. Like Afterlife, you'll find it hard not to
I don't know. You're saying this and you haven't watched any Forged in Fire.
I was going to say, yeah.
Well, I haven't watched Forged in Fire.
If you've never seen a man break a claymore across a pig's back, then you haven't lived, my friend.
Yeah. Since this is an AV podcast, I think I'll push Love, Death and Robots, which is in Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision, as opposed to something that's down the dial in standard depth.
Content over picture, and it's, I'm afraid, Steve, your blade did not make the cut. So.
Mark, I'm actually surprised Mark hasn't watched Love, Death and Robots. I think you'd really get on well with that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'll pop it on my list to watch.
What, after Forged in Fire with Seal of
Hey, don't you dare knock Forged in Fire.
Yeah.
There you go, it's 3-2. Forged in Fire wins.
It's just magical.
Because
you have no idea. No. Right. Imagine MasterChef, but they're making knives.
Okay.
And they're making knives from blocks of scrap metal.
Throw in people who probably have a Confederate flag hanging in their living room.
You joke about this, but I've got a voucher to go and make a knife.
Incredible sincerity of American television hosts and some ridiculous challenges, and it's just extraordinary television.
Mark,
I'm going to go and make my own knife, and then I'm going to watch the show, and I'll tell you whether it bears any reality.
Yeah, now you've got to watch the show after the Watershed, though, isn't that right, Mark? Because if it's shown through the day, they don't show you the strikes on the animal carcasses, do they?
Yeah. And they don't. Strangely enough, afternoon TV doesn't lend itself to disemboweling a ballistics gel dummy.
Yes, you got to watch the evening slot, Kaz, to get the full effect.
Okay.
And on that bombshell, that's it. We're off to make some knives. My thanks to Steve Withers.
That was an accident.
Mark Botwright.
I'm sorry.
Ed Selly.
See you next year, Ronald.
And Kaz Harlow.
You punched out a window for ventilation? Was that before or after you noticed you were standing in a lake of gasoline?
Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Bookmark AVForums.com for the latest reviews, news and videos. Plus, why not leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes, but only if you enjoyed the show. Also, head over and check out our YouTube channel for videos on the latest product launches and reviews, and feel free to subscribe while you're there. I'm Phil Hinton, thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you again next week.